Welcome, everybody, to the Daily Space Weather, coming up from the bunker to give you another daily update on the real deal of space weather. Just showing you the most detailed imagery of the sun you'll find in the universe and the most comprehensive space weather in this plane of existence. Coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stargazing with us as we bring you fact after fact, forecast after forecast, at an unprecedented level of accuracy. Here's the past 24 hours of the closest star in 171 angstroms from the SDO. And that's a house favorite wavelength. We've got a number of coronal mass ejections to cover and a massive filament fest. We've added 335 angstroms to this 24-hour movie. And huge number of filaments, and then more filaments if you didn't get enough filaments. Likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections remains at practically 100%. 99+%. Here we've dropped the 335 angstroms and added 193 angstroms. Again, you might see filaments galore. And let's look at some more solar imagery. Here is the SDO intensitygram. So we've got two significant groups setting there in the west. This group up here in the northwest is major. This group down here in the southwest is significant. They're both capable of producing large flares even still. And our regular viewers may be aware that they're statistically much more likely to produce large flares near the limb. Let's take a look at the colorized magnetogram. That's yesterday plus today, by the way, and so is this. March 5th and March 6th so far. And March is coming in like a lion as far as solar activity. Let's just take a brief moment here to step away from space weather and look at some geology, I guess you could say. The volcanic update here. So here's your breakdown. Sakura-jima's erupting, producing a 6,000-foot ash plume. Suwanosei-jima's exploding, producing a 7,000-foot ash plume. Semeru. Andy Vulcanist, our expedition leader for Volcano Discovery Indonesia, visited the volcano recently to make a field observation. Some gray ash plumes about 4 to 4.6 kilometers in height over Semeru. Popocatépetl exploding in central Mexico. Dag, that's an uptick there. There was a 31,000-foot ash plume there. The largest we'd covered perhaps ever in Popocatépetl. So Popocatépetl exploding. At the moment, 21,000-foot ash plume. There was a flight level 310 there, a 31,000-foot ash plume. Fuego exploding, flight level 170 in Guatemala. Nevado de Ruiz exploding, flight level 210 in Colombia. It's a 21,000-foot plume of volcanic ash, fertilizing the cocaine-growing regions. Sangay in Ecuador exploding. Of course, I know most of it comes from Bolivia. All right. Sangay exploding, flight level 200 over Ecuador, and Sabancaya exploding, flight level 230 over Peru. It's a 23,000-foot ash plume. Let's look at seismicity as well. It is commonly requested by viewers of the channel. So there is the past 90 days. And let's break it down to the past 24 hours. Looks like no major earthquakes. We'll report those over a 5 magnitude. Like this 5.1 at Peru that came in at 1925 yesterday evening Universal Time. 1925 saw a 5.1 at Peru. And then barely an hour later, a 5.4 at the Philippines. Largest quake of the past 24, I think, was a 5.8. Really far south there near the Austro-Antarctic plate boundary. The Austro-Antarctic plate boundary there. A 5.8 happening there at 22:21 yesterday evening. Also, the Nicobar Islands near India in the northern Indian Ocean, the northeastern Indian Ocean there had a 5.1. That was at 23:37 last night. 23 minutes before midnight, and then we've got a 5.0 at Chile. That was this morning at 7:34 Universal Time. Also a 5.0 in the Scotia Sea. That one there near the Antarctic plate boundary as well. And let's move on Before we do so, take a moment to press like and subscribe. If you haven't seen the playlists, check those out. We've got a new playlist, Space Weather Rager, poking a little bit of fun at alarmist nonsense on the internet. And if you want to support the channel, become a member of the Smash Team at smashhomash.com/Smash Team, the official subscription services site associated with the channel. So support us that way with a gold or silver membership. If you enjoy the content and prefer to see the videos continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view, become a member of the Smash Team and increase those probabilities. Thanks to the Smash Team members especially. If you want to learn about the plausible mechanism underlying the solar sunspot cycles, become a gold member, as you will be able to read the posts, as we've cited long ago, as we are in the process of currently composing a paper explaining the sunspot cycles. There's also an email alert list where we alert about natural disasters and so on. Click posts to see the latest posts for your logged in level. There's a bronze level, and many of the posts are visible not even after logging in. So if you want to see the latest videos and so on, smashhomash.com/Smash Team. Again, it was launched in 2021. Once again, thanks to our gold and silver Smash Team members especially. The best value is the annual gold paid-up subscription. It's almost like getting 4 months of a gold membership for free. Because there's complimentary merch, of course. So here's the past 24 hours in ionized helium. And let me just say this. There's a lot of helium right now in between the Earth and Sun because there's so much activity there. All those white areas, those are areas that are very high in ionized helium. And those are the UV emissions. The extreme ultraviolet emissions, 304 angstroms. We've added 131 angstroms. That'll help to show the flaring regions. Also, you'll see some magnetic field line looking regions there. That is the plasma aligning to magnetic fields. These videos are the past 24 hours, and we did have 3 M-class flares, which we'll get to here in a moment. We've also put up 131 plus 171 angstroms. It could be my new favorite composite wavelength, folks, as this is fantastic at showing all of the magnetic features as well as flaring. 171 angstroms isn't so great at showing flaring, but 131 angstroms is great at showing flaring. Those are just both species of ionized iron, by the way, and their extreme ultraviolet emissions. The last 24 hours from SDO. And surprisingly, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux did not rise nearly as high as we forecasted yesterday. It's only at 180 solar flux units. You can expect it to be at nearly 200 solar flux units today. So the forecast from yesterday stands. A bunch of plasma in between the Earth and Sun can interfere with the radio flux. So yesterday's forecast stands. You'll see a radio flux of nearly 200. The guess is 198 solar flux units is where the next measurement will be. There's the 1-year graph to put it in context. It actually came down from 182 yesterday, so that's quite surprising. I expect that to be a plasma effect. Maybe the measurement was taken during a coronal mass ejection. That can affect the things also. So anyway, expecting the radio flux to be back up near 200. By the end of the day today, by tomorrow's space weather video. Anyway, again, that's the 1-year graph from solon.info if you want to look at it yourself. And NOAA forecasting some geomagnetic storm conditions today. So minor geomagnetic storms here forecasted from NOAA. That's a result of a coronal hole high-speed stream. And we do have that stream indeed striking right now. We'll get into the data on that. First, the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. So those gyrations that you're seeing there, those are variations in the solar wind. We have seen variations in the magnetic field, also in the density and the velocity. Here's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And you should see some pretty significant variations in that as well. They're both basically the same model, the space weather modeling framework. Just different features. This one shows space out to about 12 Earth diameters. And this one shows the ground. This is magnetic flux density, or nanotesla, and this one is magnetohydrodynamic pressure, or nanopascals. KP index currently at 2.33. Geomagnetically calm conditions despite a recent warning. We did see some geomagnetic unrest here starting midday yesterday. That has now subsided a little bit. It could come back at any moment depending on things like fields. So let's see what's going on with the fields and the plasma as measured at Lagrangian point 1 by hopefully the ACE and Discover. There is your real-time solar wind. We're seeing some very low density readings here. Let's stick with the more normal signal. Current conditions are about 17 protons per cubic centimeter. That's the solar wind density. And solar wind speed here, a little bit below 600 kilometers per second there at 588 kilometers per second. So with these stats, if you see the BZ go into a strong negative mode, if that goes to a negative 5 BZ, where the entire vertical component is from the south, then then you might see some geomagnetic unrest continue. At the moment where we are now, that is the geomagnetically calm conditions that we showed just a few frames ago. So continuing on here to look at magnetic data, there are your GOES magnetometers. And these sawtooth readings here, these are what are typical of coronal hole high-speed streams. If you look at the 7-day, you'll see there's been quite a bit of buffeting happening in the past week. It has been minor. And thanks for leaving a comment, Mike Bordages. Next, we'll look at the top view ecliptic plane field plot. By the way, we showed what was going on 11 years ago on yesterday's video. It even made it to our thumbnail because we wanted to show the differences between last solar cycle and this solar cycle at this point. So we went back exactly 11 years and we showed that. This is the past 4 days. Earth remains in a South Pole current sheet. Although there is a North Pole current sheet headed this way, you can see the sector boundary there getting close to stereo A. We may have the sector boundary already here by tomorrow. Although I would suspect it'll take until Wednesday for it to arrive on our space weather video segment. Anyway, here's our line of sight field plot. That was the top view ecliptic plane. This is the line of sight view. It shows the solar B field in blue, north polar field in green, south polar field in red. And that moves us to coronal holes. So coronal holes are solar radio jets. Important to understand that these things are the source of high-speed solar winds. They are fairly predictably blasting out of those coronal holes. And, those are solar radio jets. So it's giving us insight into the solar polar field progression process. We do have some North Pole-oriented coronal holes here moving in the east. So they're moving up toward the equator also. Let's bring up the latest image there. There's the latest. So we've got some North Pole coronal holes over here and South Pole ones up here. Also, we just wanted to show you what was going on 11 years ago with the coronal hole line of sight plot, and it does look very differently also. So this is the same period of time exactly 11 years ago, the March 2nd through March 6th data. We slowed that down a little bit because it's less frames, but it's the same time frame. You can see the way the B field looks completely differently here. The B field is kind of split, and you've got more transequatorial coronal holes going on. You can see multiple transequatorial coronal holes here facing Earth, south and north polarity. When you look at the most recent imagery, it's completely different there. So a completely different coronal hole scenario, solar cycle 24 versus solar cycle 25. That's March 3rd through March 6th, 2023. And this is March 3rd through March 6th, 2012. So let's close that tab entirely. Bring up the latest image here. And here is our SDO 211 angstroms wavelength. These North Pole coronal holes over here will become more well-defined in a couple of days, as there's a lot of material in the corona. You know, it may not be obvious in this imagery, folks, but the corona is very bumpy. So it has a tendency to hide coronal holes. That magnetometer data is certainly legit. The one that's striking Earth now is this coronal hole. It is South Pole orientation. And let's move to sunspots. Sunspot situation is that there are lots. There will be another named group today as another one rose down here in the southeast. So we'll be at like 11 sunspot groups by the end of the day today. 3243 will set here in about maybe 10 hours. But another group formed down here. So we're going from like 12 to 11 back to 12, maybe, we'll have probably 10 or 11 sunspot groups we'll probably have. Likelihood of large solar flares very high. I mean, the main player here is probably going to be (3242). Also, we do expect to see a possible large flare from 3243 here at the limb. So high likelihood of large flares and high likelihood, almost a 100% likelihood of coronal mass ejections. Let's take a look at sunspots from SDO. So here's SDO continuum plus 304 angstroms. Again, lots of helium in between the Earth and the Sun. Now you see all that white. That is all large amounts of helium. Here's a zoom in a little bit closer for you. And we'll subtract the 304 angstroms to give you a better understanding of sunspot evolution in the past 24 hours. These are all 24-hour videos. And they've been mostly stable here. Not a lot of evolution happening. We'll let that play through one more time before we get to energetic particles and solar flares. And before we do that, a quick reminder that the 20% sale to celebrate the 16th birthday. It's a sweet 16 for Redbubble. So if you're looking to pick up products, you can still save 20%. I think it ends today. So you've only got a few hours left to save 20% on the merch. If you are thinking of picking up something, they make great gifts. Maybe you could send a Fauci fraudster face of evil bath mat to your favorite Fauci fan. By the way, they're very plush. And lots of things on there for various different reasons. And congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. Today's featured product is Do the Math. And it might look like empty space, but it's not at all. We'll explain here in a moment. First, let's show you all the products that are available. So lots of Do the Math products out there. And of course, Big Tech did the math. 8 equals capital D. It's a shame that they suck at their own jobs so bad. Big Tech, very, very bad at their own jobs. And if you think free speech has been restored on the internet, I don't know what planet you're living on. It's not Earth. It's not Twitter. It's not Meta. It's not Apple. It's not Google. And it's not alt tech sites, because Apple, Meta, Alphabet, and Twitter have a monopoly on social media. These other alt tech sites are a joke with like 14 daily users. And by the way, that is not empty space. That is Deneb right there. It might look like a Herpy on the shaft of this wall. You get the idea. Did you know that Deneb is the most intrinsically bright object visible from our entire solar system? It's probably the most important star in the galaxy, if you weren't aware. And it's important enough that we made an entire forum thread about it at smashomash.com/forum. So if you've never seen smashomash.com/forum, we made that before we made our subscription services site, because we wanted to encourage the free exchange of ideas. And so there's an entire thread about Cygnus X3, otherwise known as Deneb. It's kind of important, as it is one of the only known, if not the only known, cosmic ray point source. So check that out if you haven't. The forum thread, it's in the cosmology forum, by the way, and the thread is titled Cygnus X3 Massive X-ray Binary Celestial Pole Star Deneb, the tail of the swan, if you don't know about it. It's kind of important. And we put it here before energetic particles because if you're living in the northern hemisphere, Deneb has been sending cosmic rays through your brain for your entire life. Yeah, your entire life has been marked by particles from a distant star system. We're not even actually sure the distance, but you're part of its stellar sphere as you are in its polar jet, the little friend. Anyway, read more about it on the forum if you like. It's pretty serious. Next, getting back to the GOES particles. So this is completely different. These are particles that are from the sun. They spiral Earth's magnetic field lines around the poles, and they create polar radio blackouts when they show up because of Bremsstrahlung. That's the breaking radiation at the moment. No spikes in the proton flux there, no relativistic particles to talk about. We have had 3 M-class solar flares since yesterday. There was an M5, an M4.8, and earlier this morning, there was also an M1.1, M1.3. So 3 flares. Let's take a look at our flare wavelengths. 94 angstroms is great at showing flares. And it looks like indeed the flaring is coming from this region up here in the northwest. Probably no surprises to our regular viewers there. Let's switch to the 131 angstroms wavelength. So there's 131. Let me just reiterate, the most likely place for continued flares, in my opinion, is certainly still the northwestern limb. We've also combined those wavelengths for your viewing pleasure. Number 1, if you're frightened of the sun, I order you to refrain from shark-lighting people or from taking a number 2 in your pants. Space, it's not scary. No matter how many hacks on YouTube would like to convince you that it is. Next, we'll look at a star chart. This is what's going on over the Lehigh Valley. As I'm interested in what's going on overhead, you've got the Mercury-Saturn conjunction, and you've got the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. If you're viewing at nighttime, you might see Jupiter and Venus, the 3rd and 5th brightest object in the sky. And if you're viewing in the morning, you might see Saturn and Mercury rising ahead of the sun. Saturn is the 6th brightest object in the sky. As Mars right now is brighter than Jupiter. Anyway, here's a solar system forecast. This is what's going on in the solar system now. Let's move it ahead 1 week. And it's pretty lonely on this side of the solar system. No gas giants and no inner planets either. And remember, folks, we show this because if there's a CME headed in this direction, we want you to know about it first and have accurate indications of when it's likely to arrive, how intense it will be, and so forth. So we noticed that there is a niche and a lot of nonsense about space weather on YouTube. So we decided to fill it because, well, YouTube is full of crap. Full of crap. So we decided to put out quality content full of facts. So here's the past 24 hours in 304 angstroms. And again, it's a filament fest. The likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections is greater than 99%. And they could be earthly directed, especially if this one erupts. And of course, we've been naming filaments after living people. Let's take a look at some coronagraphs from George Mason University. So we did have some CMEs yesterday. There's one coming out of the southeast. There's one coming out of the west. Those don't look earthly directed. Let us know what you think in the comments if you disagree, or if you agree, or if you just want to put out some hate comments. Fun fact, on the channel, we don't delete comments. We don't block, mute, or ban people, as that is something that only fascist hack frauds have to do to maintain their sheltered existence in their world of fantasy and nonsense. So a couple more CMEs happening today. Those don't look earthly directed either, but they are pretty sweet. Let's take a look at some more imagery here from Stereo A and Soho Lasco C3. So there you go. There are some more images. Please pay attention to the date stamps, the date and time stamps there at the bottom, as these are not the same data sets. We'll let those play through here again because we are looking for Earth-directed coronal mass ejections and crossing our fingers that we see some. For all the channels out there that have you frightened of Earth-directed coronal mass ejections, please advise them to advance into the real modern world. If you're living in a first world country, it's very unlikely that your grid will be destroyed by a coronal mass ejection. Very, very, very unlikely. Here's the past 24 hours. Excuse me, in composite, Soho Lasco C2, C3, and STO 304 angstroms. Here we'll move in a little bit closer. Just some light shows happening there. Not earthly directed coronal mass ejections. We're 99.9% sure of that, and we're 99.9% sure that you'll see more coronal mass ejections coming today. That will be featured in tomorrow's daily space weather video. So that's what's going on. Again, there is a filament fest happening, and we're still naming filaments after living people. So here's the El Teide, Spain, ground-based solar observatory. Somebody said something yesterday about naming this one, and that one certainly should get a name. They had it down to 3 choices. So whoever that viewer was, tweet again and pick one of the 3 choices you had there. One of them was a person I've never heard of, but we do still have the Brian Keating filament here. So this was an interesting one. It actually produced a huge prominence in a CME, and then part of it relocated to a farther north position very close to the equator. The Brian Keating filament. Yeah. Brian Keating. He's interested in advancing the science. Yeah. He's interested in advancing the science. If you've got radical ideas that actually make sense, why not hit him up? Brian Keating. Seems like a good dude to me. We watched a fascinating conversation between him and Eric Weinstein yesterday about the pathetic state of affairs, favoritism in science. It needs to die. And again, if you want to name filaments, especially this one, but not this one because it's already named Brian Keating, well, hit us up on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. You'll also find the link to the free Hemp Lucid mushroom gummy samples. And make sure you follow the space weather hashtag as well. We put up lots of posts about space weather on Twitter, or I should say lots of tweets. And our account is utterly shadow banned. We noticed last night, check this out. Here's a little Twitter fact for you. We put out some tweets last night. We retweeted yesterday's videos. And 16 hours later this morning, guess how many views they had? Boop. 0. 0 views. Nobody on Twitter of our nearly 400 followers saw the tweets. That is called a shadow ban, folks. Deboosting features continue under Elon Musk. If you think he's fixed it, think again. Enter the real world. Here is the filament fest that's going on, and check out the filaments. The Brian Keating has certainly a possibility of ejecting, and also this one down here. It's kind of pointed right at Earth at the moment. It's just moving into the western portion here. A portion of it is still to the east of the equator. Those are 2 huge filaments indeed, right near center solar disk. That's 304 plus 193 angstroms. Could be the best SDO AIA wavelength to watch filaments. We've shown them repeatedly. Also, you can see a great prominence happening down here that we streamed live yesterday to the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/smashomash. And here's the past couple of hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. And a little bit of plasma reorientation happening right up here. So that might be interacting with the Brian Keating filament. In any case, that's what's going on for the past couple of hours, which brings us to our bonus features segment. So here are our bonus features, starting with satellite charging hazards, and we've got some internal charging here around Oceania, the southern Indian Ocean, southern Africa, and moving into the central Atlantic, and some surface charging events moving into the central Pacific. Surface charging is caused by low-energy electrons outside of spacecraft. Internal charging is caused by high-energy electrons inside of spacecraft in the internal circuitry itself. You could see some satellite errors as a result of this, but at the moment, those charging hazards are kind of mild. Continuing on to our GOES electron flux, which is measured at the F layer of the ionosphere using radiography. And consumer tip, Mike, those comments are way too long, and I can't do anything with those while I'm streaming because they are way too long. So I think it's probably some fanboy nonsense about Elon Musk anyway, so good luck with that. We are not fans of anybody on the channel. That would be to be fanatical, and we're not doing that. Anyway, there's the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days, and pretty high levels here, although it looks like the GOES 18 might be dropping back down. So interestingly enough, NOAA is forecasting for a further increase. So we were way off with this one. We expected this to be lower. It ended up higher. That's a thing that happens occasionally. And what we do on the channel is admit when we're wrong and move on and not try to gaslight people and lie about science and misrepresent science publications. So there's the forecast from NOAA. No arguments today because, well, we've seen it rise. It might still be rising despite a coronal hole high-speed stream. So there's the one-year graph. To put it in context for you there, that's from solon.info. We'll also show the layer of the ionosphere where that's measured, the F layer. And here is the vibrational frequency of that slice of the upper thermosphere, the bridge between Earth and space. We are seeing some nearly global scale low-frequency anomalies here. So that's a thing. They're mainly in the southern hemisphere, and if this imagery doesn't make any sense to you, it's showing the vibrational frequency of the material up there. So that's megahertz, millions of vibrations per second. There's a lot of shaking going on at the bridge between Earth and space, and this is an illustration of it, courtesy Australian Government Bureau Meteorology. Let's break out the anomalygram, and we're seeing low-frequency anomalies here on a large scale in the southern hemisphere once again. So once again, there are some channels out there that claim that they forecast earthquakes. It's just that they never forecast an earthquake. They always see earthquakes after they've occurred and then claim they've forecasted it. And when you look at their content, you don't see anything coherent resembling a forecast. So, in any case, this data right here might allow you to forecast an earthquake. I mean, I think there needs to be a local component to all of this where people need to be looking at the total electron content overhead around the fault lines they're interested in. We're mainly interested in cosmology. That's the reason why we do space weather on the channel. We're looking to advance the science of cosmology. And MAXA, we're looking to MAXA on the channel, which means make astronomy, cosmology, science again. Maybe we'll get around to forecasting earthquakes someday if we ever get any traction and get our paper published. Don't worry, folks, it's coming. And we've already informed Gold Smash Team members the basis for the plausible theory. Anyway, there's the latest image, 1315 universal time ionogram and 1315 universal time anomalygram. And here is our total electron content forecast. It'll show you the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. There you go. We are seeing some electrons sort of out of place here. That is a feature common with coronal hole high-speed streams as well. So if you're expecting major GPS errors here. Make sure that you turn on your Wi-Fi location accuracy if you are navigating. That should help things out. Again, that's the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your GPS handset. It's a run of about 12,500 miles. GPS satellites are located at the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt. They've got to communicate through that outer Van Allen belt, the plasmasphere, the inner Van Allen belt, the inner plasmasphere, and the ionosphere. And that refraction can cause some GPS errors. Anyway, here's the latest intensitygram and solar magnetogram. It looks like another sunspot rising up here also. Nope, just an active region. But this one down here is indeed magnetically complex. It is already beta gamma class, as I do see a trailing North Pole umbra. So it is beta gamma class. This one here's got an interesting straight line here. In fact, it looks like a P. Is that the Powell Peralta P? I'm not sure. Powell Peralta. Yes, I started skateboarding in 1983, by the way. So if you're concerned about me not being real and legit, okay. Good luck with that. See how that works out for you. Anyway, there are the SDO intensity and magnetograms. Most of these groups have been stable for the past 24. Again, a new sunspot just rose down here. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections nearly 100%. Likelihood of large flares, especially from this area over here in the northwest. Let's move on to our meteorology segment. And we're doing some wave chasing. So the largest waves in the world, I believe, are in the North Pacific. Although seas are pretty calm here at the moment. So we do have some 26.7 footers up there. I don't think we have any larger waves in the Southern Ocean. Those look pretty decent. Oh, there we go. There's a larger set. 28.1. Anyway, the seas are pretty calm here. It looks like no waves over 30 feet. Beware of the quiet ones, folks. Remember, folks, the quiet ones are the ones that are dangerous. Yeah, the quiet ones. Watch out for the quiet ones. There's probably some deep thought going on. Still waters run deep. Anyway, there are the surface winds as we go to meteorology of the eastern world. Here are the jet streams. We bring you bonus features in spades on the channel. There are the jet streams of the western world. And there are the surface winds. Surface winds of the central world, that's Europe, Africa, and Asia. The Middle East, rather. Looking like this, and there are the jet streams. So hopefully that helps you with your forecasting of global weather patterns. Use the jet stream for the most accurate global weather pattern forecasting, in my opinion. And let's move on here to look at clouds and fog over the Americas. So that's what's going on in terms of clouds and fog. It's our 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation satellite, part of the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. Moving on to our weather.gov map. Where the heck is our weather.gov map? We lost our weather.gov map, folks. Oh my God. Dear God. All right, let's dovetail that in. I don't know what happened. So there's our weather.gov map. Not sure where that went. I lost it during show prep, apparently. And we'll scroll down to show you the key, I think. There's the key. If your location's lit up, click your location. A few too many counties for us to cover. And let's get to some forecasts. So here's your pressure and precipitation forecast for the next 72 hours. That's your GFS 72-hour precipitation and pressure forecast. It looks like some strong storms coming to mainly Arkansas. Also some snow coming to Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Here's your accumulated positive snow depth change forecast based on the same model, the GFS 72-hour. And snow continues to fall in portions of California there. Also some heavy snow there coming to the Dakotas. And Lehigh Valley expecting another inch or so starting on the 7th. So tomorrow night, it looks like. Next, we'll show you the 3-day snow forecast. This is new snow for the next 3 days based on the Euro model. So the Euro model and the GFS model agree here. We're expecting maybe even like 3 inches of snow in Pennsylvania, in Lehigh Valley. GFS model showing it a little bit more shifted toward Lake Erie. Euro model showing it more spread across the state. So that's the next 3 days of new snow Euro model. There's the next 3 days of snow GFS model. Here is your lightning mapper. There was some lightning there in Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and moving across Lake Michigan. Looks like it actually ended right at the shores of Lake Michigan and then took up again over Michigan. Anyway, here's your real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Convince the natives that you're Zeus. Or perhaps convince the natives that you're Thor or a horror movie villain by forecasting thunder. Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, it shows you the thunderclap propagations, folks. You see that? It's good times. And it'll also show you the most violent parts of the storms. It'll let you know when not to go outside. Don't go outside in a severe thunderstorm, folks. It's one of the few things that cancels a bicycle race. One of the things that causes more bicycle races to happen is Hemp Lucid products. So all types of different products here for all types of different purposes. Visit the links below the video to find our Hemp Lucid affiliate shop, or just enter the promo code SMASHOMASH to save some cash on checkout. The promo code SMASHOMASH to save some cash on your Hemp Lucid orders. Shout out to Hemp Lucid and all of our viewers who've been picking up the products. They are spectacular. We've been giving them away at Lehigh Wheelman Club Rides. If you want to visit the Lehigh Valley, come visit and ride with us, the Lehigh Wheelman Association. You may see me on a ride. Let me know in the comments. Hit us up on Discord. You can find all kinds of ways if you want to ride with the largest cycling club in the Lehigh Valley, the Lehigh Wheelman Association. And please visit the links below the video. The official homepage is smashomash.com. So welcome to the Neo Renaissance. We launched it back in 2019 because a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped the maximum security social media stockade to the internet underground, where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you're watching a bunch of nonsense on YouTube, maybe you can hire the Smash team. No, you certainly can. There's a link right there. And right there on the homepage to the Smash team. And let's close this mother out with some U.S. Doppler radar maps. There's the full 50 states. We'll be on the lower 48 for the remainder of the video. Oh, it looks like the snow's coming tonight to Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. It'll be here by March 7th. It's already March 6th. How time flies when you're looking at the shortwave radiation map. And here's the water vapor map, and that is where we will shut this thing down. Here's a recap. U.S. Doppler radar, ground-based systems that show vertical motion in the air column. Satellite-based infrared radiation map at 3.9 nanometers shows clouds and fog when it's too dark over half the country to use the visible. And there is the water vapor map that should clear up any issues you have with your Doppler, not giving you a clear picture of what will happen, as this will give you a lot more information about how systems are likely to move. So hopefully we're giving you lots more information about how things work in space and on Earth. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I'm going to have to head back to the bunker and get back to digging. So see you soon. In the meantime, may that solar wind be at your back. Oh, and don't forget to visit the links here, here, and here.